Okay, good morning, everybody. We're continuing the Ayin. We're, Baruch Hashem, amazingly, V'siyat Shmai, we're beginning Chumash Devarim. The first pasuk in this Parsha, where Moshe Rabbeinu begins his final address to Klal Yisrael, says, Eila HaDvarim, these are the words, Asher Diber Moshe al Klal Yisrael, Be'ever HaYarden, on the other side of the Yarden. As we know, that Eretz Yisrael is on one side of the Yarden. Klal Yisrael, at this point, before they crossed over the Yarden, they were on the other side of the Yarden. So the Ayin has three questions, and from these three questions we're going to learn the tremendous koyach, the tremendous power that Shabbos has. We've learned many times the Ayin discusses the kedushas of Shabbos, and here's another important prat that summarizes how important Shabbos is. The first question of Ayin is a very practical question. Moshe Rabbeinu, at this point, is standing on some sort of platform, and he's speaking to roughly 5-6 million people, at least. Some Joshim say there were 30 million Jews. How could it be that Moshe Rabbeinu can speak to so many Jews and they can hear him? Now, there's a famous story with the Beneskai. The Beneskai, who lived in Baghdad, used to speak in the main shul of Baghdad, I think it was 4 or 5 times a year. And even though there were thousands of people that would come in, it was a very big shul. Rav Kaduri would testify that the whole shul could hear him. Wherever you were in the shul, it was clear that the Shechina spoke through him because everybody heard him. Rav Kaduri said, and others that came from Baghdad that remembered hearing the speeches. Rav Kaduri lived to 110, 107. He was a young boy when the Beneskai was still alive, and he said that he remembers the speeches, the drushes that the Beneskai gave, and everybody heard it. You could hear it. It was a pin drop, and even though it was a massive, massive auditorium, and it was on Shabbos, there was no speakers, there was no microphones, everybody heard it. There was no, right, in the Gemara it says that somebody would speak, and then somebody would relay to the rest of the crowds what the Rav said. Rav Kaduri said that the Beneskai had none of this. So we see this concept, as we're going to learn in a second, this ability to speak and to project. So the Ayin wants to know, where did this koyach come from? In addition, why does the pasuk have to tell us where Klal Yisrael was, Be'ever HaYarden? We know where they were, right? They were in the midbar the whole time, and they were about to enter Eretz Yisrael. Do we have to know where they were? V'yesh l'daktek. Shalachayre, says the Ayin, Eino imuven shekol shel ish, the voice of a person, echad yenishma l'chol Yisrael biyachad, that everybody in Klal Yisrael could hear it. The Ayin says that he heard from his father-in-law, V'shamati mechami, a tremendous explanation. Al pasuk Be'ever HaYarden, to explain why the Torah says Be'ever HaYarden. Shemerumas boy hinted in this word Be'ever HaYarden, melamed shashchina medaberes mitagroina shel Moshe, that the Shechina would speak through the groina of Moshe Rabbeinu. As we mentioned with the Beneskai, so if the Beneskai had the Shechina speaking through him, and 4, 5, 6,000 people were able to hear him, for sure Moshe Rabbeinu had it. Where do we see this in the words Be'ever HaYarden? Umerumas Be'ever HaYarden, hainish oisios shem achrei oisios. Be'ever HaYarden means a little bit of a play on the words, on the other side of the word Yarden, not just on the other side of the Yarden. That's the Parshat. But the father-in-law of the Ayin said, whose name was Rav Nasa Nata, who was the Rav in Average before the Ayin, he says, no, look at the words Be'ever HaYarden on the other side of the word Yarden, which is Hainisha Oisios Shehem Achrei Oisios Yarden Hem Oisios Shechina. The pasuk is telling us and is hinting to us, and a secret, that the way Moshe Rabbeinu was able to speak and to project his voice to the entire Klal Yisrael was this thing called Ever HaYarden, which is hinting to the Shechina. How do we get the Shechina from Ever HaYarden? So the Ayin explains, Hainu Achar Ois Yud Mimilas Yarden. So if you look at the word Yarden, it starts with the letter Yud. So after the word Yud is a Chaf. Achar HaReish, the second letter of the Yarden is the Reish. Hu Ois Shin. Achar HaDalet, Hu Ois Hey. Achar Nun is also Nun, right? Because it's a Nun Soifis. And that comes out to the word Shechina. V'zehu haremesh Moshe diber bechina Shechina shedikr Ever HaYarden. That's the hint that Moshe Rabbeinu spoke through the help of the Shechina, just like when HaKadosh Baruch Hu said the first two commandments, the entire Klal Yisrael heard it, so too HaKadosh Baruch Hu instilled in Moshe Rabbeinu this koyach of the Shechina. Where did this koyach come from? And in order to explain that, we have to give another hakdama to the third question that we mentioned. All the Nevi'im all gave nevuah in Eretz Yisrael. The exception to this rule was Moshe Rabbeinu. Now there was another Navi, Yecheskel ben Buzi, but it's not clear if he was on the border of Eretz Yisrael. But for the most part, Moshe Rabbeinu was the only Navi that said nevuah in the Midbar, and I think even one nevuah was said in Mitzrayim. In general, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Torah tells us that in order to speak to Hashem, you had to leave Mitzrayim. The tomb of Mitzrayim was great that Hashem didn't want to go there. Now that's not to say that Hashem couldn't go there. Of course Hashem could go there. But if he would go there, the entire tumah would disappear. And Hashem didn't want that to happen because Hashem wanted us, Klal Yisrael, to cause the tumah to disappear. But on a practical level, where did Moshe Rabbeinu get this koyach to get nevuah in the Midbar? Says the Basayin, that comes through the mitzvah of Shabbos. Shabbos has a tremendous koyach, teaches the Basayin, that in Shabbos the Shechina resides. We know that Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Matana toiva yesh li b'gnuzai. I have a tremendous present in my storehouse and I'm giving it to Klal Yisrael. Everybody understands when I want to give somebody that I love a present, I give them the most important present, the most cherished, right? I have somebody that I want to show my appreciation to. I want to give a present to somebody that I want to connect to. I want a chassan gives a kala a present, a kala gives a chassan a present. A son gives a parent, a daughter gives a parent a present. They want to give them something that the parent, the other person will understand. I'm giving you something that's exceedingly important. Hashem gave us two important presents: the Torah, and more importantly, in some ways, Shabbos. Not that Shabbos is more important than the Torah, but Shabbos was the special present that Hashem gave to us. What's the present? The Shechina itself. And that's Bechinas Shabbos, we know that Shabbos is the central point of the whole week. As it says that the world was created for 6 days until Shabbos. Shabbos comes, we keep Shabbos, we now have another 6 days. We keep Shabbos, we have another 6 days. The koyach of the next 6 days comes from the way we celebrate and we honor and we mechabed and we remember Shabbos. Hainu sheboy b'Shabbos hashras hashchina. Why? Because there's hashras hashchina in Shabbos. Now the way to connect, to bridge Shabbos to the Sheshes Yimei Bereshis, to the 6 days of the week, and this is a very important secret, is Malav Malcha. The Suda Malav Malcha connects Shabbos and is mashpia on the week. That's why it's very important to have the Suda of Malav Malcha. This week we're going to have a little bit of a problem because it's Tisha B'Av, so you have to know how to have a Malav Malcha. We'll leave that for a different discussion for a different time. But the way to bridge the hashpa, the koyach, the brachos of Shabbos to the rest of the week is through the Malav Malcha. Now, so the Basayin explains that Shabbos is the central point of the week. And Eretz Yisrael, hu nekuda pnimiyus shel kol ha'olam. Eretz Yisrael is the central point of the world. We know that all the shefa of the world comes through Eretz Yisrael. Ubechinas Yushalayim, ubeis hamikdash, u'kodesh ha'kedashim, hu ha'nekuda pnimiyus l'Eretz Yisrael. Yushalayim is the center city, Beis HaMikdash is the center point in Yushalayim, and the Kodesh HaKadoshim is the center point of the Mikdash. Sheboy hashras hashchina hashpia kedusha shel olam. Through that, we're mashpia shchina to the entire world. The Yisrael and Klal Yisrael's heima nekuda pnim shekol ulumas. So if you have Yisrael, Kodesh HaKadoshim, and Shabbos are all the central points, the main points of the world. Uba'avar ela nekudos, and because of this was the ikar point of the creation of the world. Kemaimah, like it says, Bereshis b'shul Yisrael shenikar reisos. Yisrael yishmeru es Shabbos, that Klal Yisrael should keep the Shabbos. By us keeping the Shabbos, we're mekabel the Shechina, and by us being mekabel the Shechina, it's mashpia on the entire world. If we did not keep Shabbos, we did not keep the Torah, the entire world would disappear. Kadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm making a bris between me and you, and the way to celebrate the bris and the way to bind this connection, this agreement, is through Shabbos. Therefore, Nesru Tal Malachas and Mishkan Shabbos. That's why it is also to do the 39 Malachas on Shabbos. Ki Iker Binyan Mishkan. Why did we build a Mishkan? Was to bring the Shechina, that Kadosh Baruch Hu should have a place to reside. On Shabbos, we don't need the place for Hashem to reside because Hashem is Shabbos. Shabbos itself is the Shechina. And that's hinted in the words Eila Hadvarim. Eila Hadvarim, these are the words refers to Shabbos, because the word Eila, there's two ways to explain it. Eila is 36, Hadvarim is another 2, it's 38, plus the word Dvarim itself is 39, or Eila is 36, plus the 3 letters of Eila is 39. That hints to the Shechina, which is connected to the 39 Malachas of Shabbos that are also on Shabbos. So, just to recap that we have it klar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu instilled in Moshe Rabbeinu the Shechina. How did Moshe Rabbeinu get the Shechina? Because Moshe Rabbeinu brought to Klal Yisrael Shabbos. Moshe Rabbeinu told Paro, give Klal Yisrael a day off so they could recuperate. The reason that he did it was really in order that Klal Yisrael should be able to keep Shabbos. Moshe Rabbeinu also, one of the first mitzvahs that we got was to keep Shabbos. And we know that Yismechu Malchuscha, right, Shomer Shabbos, right, we say in Shabbos that Moshe Rabbeinu gets the extra special Kedusha on Shabbos, because Moshe Rabbeinu was the Shechina, he was the vehicle that the Shechina was used, and the Shechina is the method that Hashem uses to be mashpia in the entire world, through Shabbos, through Klal Yisrael, and through the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And that's the secret that Moshe Rabbeinu was able, even in the Midbar, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to be misnava. That teaches us that a person that keeps Shabbos, right, the Gemara says, Kol HaShomer Shabbos, not only does he get nachla bli mitzarim, he gets things that he doesn't even deserve, right? Because it's nachla bli mitzarim, there's no boundaries, right? Sometimes when you give somebody something, it's limited. Okay, this is what you deserve. You deserve a bonus of X, so I'm giving you X. I can't give you more because you don't deserve more. But when you keep Shabbos, there's no boundaries, there's no limit. Hashem says, you keep Shabbos properly, then I'll give you even without limit, even things you don't deserve. Even in places that you don't deserve, like the Midbar. And that is the schus that Moshe Rabbeinu had, that even in the Midbar, a makam of Tumah, a makam that we know that the Klippas, the Tzarat Tumah resides, but because Moshe Rabbeinu is the dugma of Shabbos, Hashem gave him the special bracha that not only could he speak to the entire nation of Klal Yisrael at once, but he also got the koyach to speak in places that other people couldn't speak. Why? Because Shabbos is the Shechina, and when we keep Shabbos, we honor Shabbos in all the different ways that we honor, and we learn the halachos of Shabbos, the right way to keep Shabbos, what's mutter, what's asa, and we show Hashem that Shabbos is important to us, and we appreciate the gift, then we get nachla bli mitzar, we get rewards without any limits, right? In Shemayim, they can't say Reuven doesn't deserve this. You're right, technically he doesn't deserve this. But the reward for Shabbos is not dependent on what you deserve, because it's nachla bli mitzarim. And therefore, as we come to this Shabbos, a special Shabbos, we should remember to continue to be dovuk, to be mechabit Shabbos, and through this we'll be zoicha to see the Yom Shekulei Shabbos, which we know we now need more than ever. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be mashpia on us, bracha, atzlacha, and the schus of Shabbos. We should have nachla bli mitzarim in ruchnius and in gashmius.